So the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer just got released and it looks pretty awesome. This trailer does have a lot going on, but what everyone's talking about is what's happening to Peter. So from the trailer, it seems like Peter is going through some sort of transformation with his powers. And there's two theories we can boil this down to, and I'm going to explain both. So one, he's probably transforming into the Man-Spider, which I'm seeing most people claim could be the case, or they're adapting the other Spider-Man storyline from the comic books. Now, there's actually two different Man-Spiders from the comics. One was a transformation Peter underwent back in the 1980s when he and Angel got kidnapped and experimented on, and the other is an alternate version of Spider-Man who had 6 arms. So, Man-Spider was also adapted in the Spider-Man the Animated Series from the 1990s, and his transformation was hinted at by Dr. Connors when he analyzed Peter's DNA, and he revealed that him getting his powers from the spider that bit him initially was simply the beginning of the transformation, and he's been slowly mutating the whole time. So they kind of changed up the story when they adapted it into the series. Now, Punisher is also going to be in Brand New Day. The episode that Peter begins his transformation into the Man-Spider is actually the same episode that the Punisher made his appearance in, and he ends up hunting Peter as he turns into the Man-Spider. Also, fun fact, when the Punisher was first created, he made his debut in a Spider-Man comic as an antagonist who tried to kill Peter. Now, the other was a story arc back in the early 2000s, I believe, where Peter went through a rebirth phase where he technically died and came back to life. So in the other, Peter receives a diagnosis from a Dr. Castillo that he was dying from a terminal illness. And after hearing this news, he went to some of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe for a second opinion. So he goes to Reed Richards and he runs some tests and concludes that the condition Peter was dying from wasn't caused by cancer or anything else. So he then goes to Bruce Banner and he tells him the illness is spreading too fast to be cured. Then he goes to Black Panther and he tells Peter that he can't find the source of the illness. Then he goes to Doctor Strange, and not even Doctor Strange could help him, because he tells him that whatever he was dying from, he couldn't cure with the use of magic. So later in the story, Peter is attacked by a vampire-like character called Morlun, and he beats him almost to death but doesn't actually kill him, and he ended up in the hospital. Now remember, Peter is already dying from an illness, so right now he's in critical condition in the hospital. So Morlun visits Peter in the hospital to finish him off. But to his surprise, Peter jumps out the bed and attacks Morlun and kills him. But using everything he had to kill Morlun resulted in Peter succumbing to his injuries and dying. Now, they took Peter's body away so the public didn't know that Spider-Man was dead. And while they were trying to figure out what really happened to him, they noticed his body had been hollowed out and the window in the room was broken. So it turned out that Peter was shedding kind of like spiders do, and he'd escaped and went into hiding, so all that was left was like a husk of Peter's body. So Peter is now underneath the Brooklyn Bridge and he falls asleep inside a cocoon, where he has a really strange dream, and inside the dream there's a voice talking to him. The voice within the dream was the Other, hence the name of the story. So the Other is like a spider god with like mystical powers, and it typically takes on a host, typically a character with spider powers, and enhances their powers, and it can bring them back from the dead and so on. So in the dream, the Other is telling Peter how he never truly embraced being Spider-Man, and that he's been neglecting the spider part. So what had happened was Morlun killed the human part of Spider-Man, but it was the spider part of him that killed Morlun, which saved both of them, which is the whole reason Peter's even still alive. So the Other then tells Peter he can only be reborn until he fully accepts and embraces both halves, the human and the spider. So Peter agrees and he's fully reborn with all his wounds healed and his powers enhanced by the Other. So that being said, I believe that Peter's transformation is basically his powers being augmented by the Other or some other entity, which would explain why his eyes are turning full black in this scene. My first thought was the Man-Spider, but I thought it'd be too goofy for them to do. I mean, are they really gonna have Peter in this movie with 6 arms? So the Man-Spider is kinda out of the question for me. Also, if you pay attention to the trailer, you'll notice there's a part where someone is speaking And they talk about how a spider has 3 life cycles, and in between those cycles, they can be vulnerable to threats. So I'm guessing that with all the villains that are going to be in this film, Peter's going to be under so much physical stress that he has to go through like a transformation where his powers have to evolve in some way. In the trailer, you can see evidence of this when he's building cocoons and he's using organic webbing. Also, his spider senses have been enhanced so much that he can actually hear drops of water. If you remember, I just said earlier how when Peter was reborn in the story, his powers were modified by the other. So these are the 2 possible transformations that Peter could be undergoing in Brand New Day, and I'm leaning towards him being reborn by the other, or whatever they're going to use in place of the other if they are adapting that story. But anyway, these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.